Call the roll, Madam Chairman, or
Yes.
Chairwoman.
Yes.
Alderman Williamson,
Here.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Cohen, Alderman Arnowitz,
He has to be excused.
Alderman Kotar,
Has to be excused.
Alderwoman Green,
Has to be excused.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present. We don't have a quorum.
No, ma'am.
I know that we don't have a quorum. We're not actually having any board bill or anything. This is basically just an organizational meeting to talk about how we tend to do this committee, so we don't really have to have a quorum for that. It's been announced, and maybe Davis and Cohen might come later. Still, wouldn't be a quorum without the president, because it'd be 3 and 3. But that's okay. We're gonna go ahead with what we're doing. So this is not my first time being a chair, but this is the first time I've been a chair since I've been back. Public employees is something I think is very important. And I don't think that people have used it to the full extent that we should be using it, okay? When I was here before, they used it. One of the things happens with public employees, you already know, you with the chair, is that all the pay bills come before it.
Right.
Okay, I was surprised that I saw a pay bill go to public safety went under Carol Howard, and I thought that was a mistake, okay?
That's correct.
The other thing, though, that they say that we're supposed to do, standing committees, and public employees is a standing committee, is that we're supposed to suggest means that we can improve different things that's under our purview. So anything that civil service personnel and all the different, what do you call it, the different departments, they all can be, as we make decisions about if they should get a raise or whatever, we need to know things like how much money they already make, okay? How their department works, how does personnel work, how does civil service work? You may or may not know, but a lot of times people who are not on this committee or haven't been advised thusly don't know. Like, I still thought that we were pulling from a pool of 3, that once they interview people, that they send the top 3 to the authority to choose.
Okay.
I've been told that that's no longer true, so.
So they don't have that kind of confirmation?
No, they do 5 now, or 6.
Oh, I see.
Okay, and it used to just be 3. And so those are the kind of things that we need to know about.
Right.
Okay, we need to know what kind of raises people have gotten. So in that spirit, I'm getting, every committee member is gonna get a list of what everybody makes.
Okay.
And then we're gonna also get lists from last year and the year before. So then we'll be able to make a comprehensive kind of examination of,
Right.
do people really need raises? You know, we're at a time when we are severely limited. You're the chair of Ways and Means,
Yes,
so.
ma'am.
And I would like to work really closely with you about this, but just, some of the people I heard, and I don't know if this is true, got substantial raises, and I wanna know how that happened in a time when, we're looking to cut and slash.
I agree. And some people need raises.
Exactly.
Some really don't. I understand what
Exactly.
you're saying.
You know, one of the things that I always have questioned is that, and I told him to his face, how Greg Daly makes more than Mavis, the collective revenue makes more than the license collector and the treasurer put together. So that is a concern to me. How does that happen? Nobody's ever
Right.
examined that, okay? He just collects the money. Those 2 departments actually bring the money in.
Generate it.
So for me, that's a problem that we have given him such amount. And it's in here how much he makes. And I have always advocated, this is public money, and we should do just like the state does. We should have something out there where everybody knows what everybody makes, okay? It should not be any secret or anything like this. This is not confidential information. And in here, we got what we make.
Right.
So we make $10,000 less than our secretaries, okay?
Taxpayers' money, so
Exactly.
everyone should know. That's right.
Exactly. But I have already been talking to the personnel director, so we're gonna have, we're gonna be having, and I know you're gonna start your meeting, so I don't want anything
Yes,
to
sir.
conflict, but
No.
probably once a week for the next few weeks, we're gonna, or once every 2 weeks maybe, we're gonna have meetings. We're gonna bring personnel director in. We're going to bring in civil service. I don't think they've ever been before us. There is a spot that's coming up, and I think the mayor's going to replace one of the persons. Right now, we have all men. I would love to see a woman on there. And we've had Harley. It's been many years ago since there was a female on there.
Now, and you're talking about in the mayor's cabinet?
No, Civil Service Commission.
Okay.
Yes.
Civil Service Commission. No women sits on that committee.
3 men.
All right.
All old enough to be our parents almost. Not quite that,
Long time,
but
yeah.
that's right. But right, so they've been there for a real long time, and So, just talking to them, finding out about how things work, be able to ask questions. I don't think that you can make suggestions about how things should change, or even make a good analysis about if there needs to be a pay raise. We don't know what's going on. So I want to thank my predecessors, Dan McGuire, Shrewsbury, Freeman Bosley, Geraldine Osborne. These are all the people, Marty Boosie, that taught me, and Tom Villa, that taught me when I was a new person about how to really not only have a committee meeting, but use that as a way to educate the other aldermen so that they can make better decisions. And I don't believe in that top-down, try to pressure people just to be with somebody, okay? We got a lot of people that come from different parts of the city, and they're gonna bring different views, and I think that makes for a better mix of legislation if you let everybody have some input and hear their points of view. So, and I've been in committees where they said that people who are not on the committee cannot ask questions. That will never be here. The alderman here will always get to answer questions and ask questions first, but any other alderperson that comes, they're welcome. I was shocked when I came back here and Phyllis tried to keep me from asking a question on public safety. I was like, really? Okay, you know, if an alderperson spends the time to come down here, they represent, whether they're on this committee or not, they represent a
You
constituency.
have a right as a
Right.
elected official to ask those questions.
Right. So,
And I think it's important, like you said, to place a woman on the Civil Service Commission, because, you know, women is a large workforce, as we all know. And when you're raising families, having kids, you need that perspective, you know, in order to be fair to every employee. And of course, a lot of them are women, so I think you're right, women should be on that board. I agree.
okay, do you have, I don't know what you all were doing. You were on this committee already?
Yeah.
Went under Carol Howard?
No, I wasn't. I didn't serve under Carol Howard.
Okay.
But, you know, I was chair. But I
Okay.
did.
So what did, so you just got on the committee now?
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
placed on committee.
So what were you doing? Is there anything you would like to see addressed that you were doing as the chair further?
Some of the bills that I had, the whistleblowing bill.
Okay.
I think, was a good bill. And then we also had the affirmative action bill that didn't really get through.
Okay.
And that's something I've been wanting to work on. And working with city council has been kind of a tough deal in trying to structure a bill. The bill that I tried to pass, it was voted down in the committee, and we were supposed to bring it back. But by that time, I was, you know, I had taken on a new committee. So I would like to come back with the you know, the bill that I had.
So it was
Was the,
whistleblowers, and what's the other one was, discrimination?
Discrimination bill.
Okay.
Right.
So I am particularly interested in, and I've already talked to him about whistleblowers, so I would really want to look at that.
Right.
And the other thing, what I want to tell you, I'm interested in is how complaints are made. Because I have gotten so many calls from different people in different departments who now, they got all kind of complaints. And many times, the complaints are against the department head. And so from when I went and checked with the personnel, basically the department head can just stonewall it and nobody does
Right.
anything. We don't have anything, and that's a failure to me on the legislative side.
I agree.
We don't have anything, so if your department head is doing something to you or sexually harassing you, especially in this Me Too generation, we have a policy. So I would like to have a sexual harassment policy or just a regular policy, so if something is going on, that
Right.
if it's your superior that you're having a problem with, that you have another place, that it doesn't just fall. I mean, I had, and I particularly want to say that, you know, I had it with a member of the mayor's staff, and when I reported it all, because the prior mayor didn't do anything, it kind of fell through the loop, but I am not letting it fall through the loop, okay? And I don't think that, I could have just taken it over to the police, and I still can, but I want us to have something in place that when people are out of order or they're harassing people, that there is a across-the-board method for you to be able to complain about it, okay?
Right.
So in your whistleblowers bill, was there something that kept the people, if they didn't want their names brought out?
Yep.
It kept their names private?
Right. Which had to be, yeah. You know,
Okay.
you could, you know, keep it private if you're complaining about, you know, your supervisor, manager, and once you report it, then certain departments will investigate depending on the, you know, the legalities that were taking place among that particular employee or the supervisor or
Okay.
manager, you know.
Okay.
So I think it's a pretty good bill. It could probably be tweaked and
When did you
adjusted
pass
for-
it, two terms ago?
Yeah, it was, not, yeah,
This is 18.
not this past.
Not
session.
17, 16?
Right.
Can you pull that
Right.
bill?
Yes,
And you
ma'am.
were the primary sponsor?
Right, so I was.
Okay, I want a copy of it and get,
2015, 2016, is that what?
It was
Right.
2016, yeah.
Okay.
But it's a good bill, and I think, I've had some employees call me with the city of St. Louis and, you know, commend me on the bill.
okay.
And I think it's really important that we have that, because in a lot of cases, people are intimidated.
So what do you think about the Me Too sexual discrimination with everything that's been going on, or sexual harassment? Do you think we need to address that?
The Me Too? I don't know, that's a good point. I don't hear about, unless you do, because me being a male, I don't hear about much sexual harassment.
So we didn't
You
hear
know.
about all this that was going on
Yeah,
until
that's
we
true,
did,
too.
okay?
That's true, too,
If people
too.
don't feel safe,
Well, I mean.
they don't tend to tell you, okay?
And that could be addressed, that could be an additional add-on to, or separate from, the,
So I had to,
whistleblower.
when I heard this whole Me Too thing, one of the things because if you put your hands on me, you will get slapped in your face, and a big admonishment, don't, and that happened twice in, all the years I've been in employment, and both times, these were my bosses, they got,
Yeah.
and don't you ever touch me again.
Right.
But I didn't ever, until I heard the Me Too, I never realized they were sexually harassing me. I had grown up in a culture, I guess, or a time when men did that and you kind of admonished them and went
Yeah.
on. Now, I wasn't intimidated, but I didn't have children. There was, if I lost my job or quit,
right,
I was footloose and fancy free. But when people tend to have jobs, things like that, then they may be, you know, and they got children to take care of, then that may be a reason why we're not hearing it.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've been here 20-something years, I've heard about racial conflicts that people feel like are not getting heard. I've heard about name calling. You know, the former sheriff got sued over there because he let, not the current one, but the former, and lost a big lawsuit because he let the people put a noose up in there.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And
Yeah.
lost a big
Yeah.
lawsuit.
Yeah.
The former mayor lost a lawsuit with Chief Coyle, the racial discrimination lawsuit.
okay, yeah.
I think you
Like
remember,
promotion.
right? Then we came back, and I'm looking to do this. We came back and took all of his powers. We all voted no, but Phyllis Young supported a bill that took all his powers away from him after he had won
From
a
the,
Coyle
from the, oh, okay, from the, oh,
as the fire. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that I think is a racial discrimination all
Right.
over again,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
and we need to address it, not just race, but sex. And if it's a man that's being, you know, I don't. Sometimes it's a man that's being bothered. Okay, in Congress now, I think they got a thing where there's a man making a allegation, a white male, that one of the white female congresswomen have been grabbing him and touching him, and he's
Right.
like, I've been telling her no, and
Wow.
so. It goes both ways, okay? I just think people ought to have a safe place to work, and they ought to have some place to be able to complain.
and I guess verbally, you can sexually harass a woman or a man, just about what you say, how you dress, and it may be compliments, but it can be very, you know,
Invasive and unwanted.
that's right. It has
And that's what I
overtone
want, I
of-
want the personnel director to talk to us about that, okay?
Okay.
I have been talking to him and writing to him about police testing with all these shootings, that why don't we have a drug testing, alcohol testing on the spot,
Police officer.
okay? And I've been doing that for years, and we've been going through things, so now I told him I want to bring that up, of how we can address it. The police never want it, and it's not an attack on the police, but
Right.
when you're firing guns, and we've given you the authority to actually take a person's life, then we need to know if you are under the influence. And I think it really came to light after that guy that got killed on Shaw and Clem.
Yeah,
Then it came up, the police officer kept getting in trouble. He was on drugs,
Yeah,
and he was
that's right.
drinking. So how do we know he wasn't on drugs and
that's
drinking?
right, good point. You're right.
When he shot the guy. And lastly, in keeping with that, one of the things I'm interested in is that right now, we settle police lawsuits. Even when they don't get found guilty criminally, they come back and they lose in the civil cases. That is right now coming out of our budget. I think that.
General revenue?
Yes, and I think that we ought to, every year, they ought to give us a listing and amount of how much they settle, whether it's the police or anybody else, how much we're paying to settle lawsuits
Yeah.
in which the police or anybody else has maybe not committed, could not be found guilty criminally, but civilly they've been held liable. And we need to look at another way to pay these things. You know, as a lawyer, if I practice law, I have to have some kind of insurance. Okay. Now, are you required to have insurance for working here, or does the city?
In-house counsels, no. So-
Okay, right. But of course, you're not firing a gun. I think we need some kind of insurance or something else set up for this that doesn't come,
Liability where-
that does not come out of
Yeah.
general revenue. And these are the kind of things I would like to talk to the committee about what they're, you know, and I know
Yeah.
we got some people on here that's very strong police and
Yeah.
may not like it, but that makes for a good discussion to me.
Right, and, you know, some departments have policies, like if they're driving vehicles and if they're in an accident, be it their fault or not, then they have to go take a drug test, they got to drop. And then when it comes to the sexual harassment cases, I know some departments have, if I sexually harass you, then before all this goes down, you have a signed document saying that, okay, if I sexually harass you, you're gonna go against me, like, or you wanna claim that I did sexually harass you, then it's a form that is presented, where I sign off, then you can sue me, but not the department.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's just a
Right.
individual
Right.
lawsuit between me and you, other than just a department.
And that may work, except for that if the city covers it up and okays it or doesn't do anything. Like the thing with the person who's over in the mayor's office now, the city now has become part of it. They should have disciplined that individual, what he did, and other aldermen all saw it, all our staff saw it, okay? So then, I wrote a letter, you look at, I documented it, but well documented what happened, because it happened to me and Christina, okay? And held us hostage in our office, okay? Oh, yes. And so, then to me, you shouldn't sign away your rights when the authority that employs that person doesn't do anything about it. And I want to make us liable. If we're not doing anything and people properly report it, which I wrote to Francis Slay, I wrote to the personnel person, and that's when I found out that we had this gap in what happens, because they basically, Mr. Franks told me, was up to the appointing authority. Well, no. Who else investigates it? Because if you ask Terry Kennedy, he was here. If you ask Sharon, she was here. If you ask Carol Howard, all the people, everybody saw it. So how can it just stop with the appointing authority?
You shouldn't.
Okay, so then the appointing authority then becomes implicitly part of it to me, okay? And I don't want people to have to sign away their rights if we don't do the right things,
Right.
okay? If we don't take the steps, we did what was proper in our own case within the Board of Aldermen. That ought to happen in all departments, and we shouldn't leave it individually up to a department, because then that's uneven in how we're treating our personnel.
Right, right. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Right.
That some departments operate like that.
I know.
On an individual.
But now Mr. Franks told me as far as about the drug testing, that they, except for, that they had they used to go out and do some stuff, and then they had stopped because there was an issue of the parity laws, and he and I worked through that.
Really?
Then now he admits, the city has a milquetoast, they came up with what I call the milquetoast testing policy about the
What does that
police.
mean?
And he sent it to me, and I'll give it to, everything I get, I will give to the committee members. But we have the ability, when somebody shoots somebody, to go out immediately and do a test. And there should not be a reason why we should not, especially with all that's going on in today's world. And that you have that ability. They can go right out there at that time and take the test right then and there. It doesn't take that long at all.
What about random testing?
They
Especially when
still
it
do
comes
that.
to Law enforcement officers.
Right.
I mean, the sheriff's office used to do it, I don't know if they still do.
They do that,
Right.
but
Maybe
they
we
used to
could-
have a thing of, if you had drove a vehicle and you got in an accident, that,
Yeah, took a test, you had
Right.
to take a drug test. That's correct.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all finished or y'all waiting? to
No,
start?
they didn't show, so I started because it wasn't a actual meeting, and we're about to finish. You're welcome. We're talking about what we're gonna talk about here, and what I do is, you get unexcused if you don't call me, and 3, and you be off of my committee. See, I don't play that, okay?
We all on
So,
tape.
right, so, but we were just discussing how we're gonna run this committee now, and, I just told them we got a list of what everybody makes, cause we're passing it all out to the committee, and we're
May I
gonna.
see it real
Sure, you can have one. We always, when I was a new person, this is how we did committees, so we actually had teaching committees. And so that's how my committee will be run, okay? And we were talking about that, what we should do as the public employees, that we're gonna be looking at all, different divisions and, seeing how we can make improvements, or suggest improvements. We're gonna be looking at a couple of years of that to see, who got big raises, and, cause as the raises are all supposed to go, through public employees, then how can we make a good decision if we don't know what you made last year or the year before? And that's how I think certain people have gotten very big raises at the expense of other people. One of the ones I like to point out is that Greg Daly, the collective revenue makes almost as much money as the license collector and the treasurer put together. And that usually is not the norm when you are talking about who collects the money versus who makes the money. The people who bring in the money usually make more. And I think that has just happened over time for a lot of reasons. Ronald Leggett was there for a long time, and then Greg Daly was, when I got here, was assistant to the president. And he's been able to work it politically, but I don't know if that's fair to what people
They
should
can
be
make as
making.
much as.
We're gonna find that out.
It makes about 160-some thousand.
That's wrong.
It's more than that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Leggett,
And then you're not
That's
even
the last
counting,
figure I saw.
and then
With
you're not
Leggett?
even counting,
No.
no,
no,
Greg
I-
Daly.
I'm saying did Leggett make that
Oh.
much?
We gonna find that out,
I
okay?
do have a question.
Okay.
When it comes to the pay bills,
Mm-hmm.
is there a pay bill submitted every year or only when there's a raise?
So, it depends on the different departments.
It
Usually they
depends.
try to, people are trying to get a little raise for their people. It doesn't have to be, but usually somebody's trying to get a little bit.
When I was the chairperson of public employees, majority of the time it was always the secretary attorney's office. And had recording fees too one time.
Right.
So secretary attorney recorded fees when I was
Okay.
chairperson, but that was it, nobody else.
I thought it was everybody, every year that submitted.
I thought we usually got a cost of living raise, didn't we?
We do get a cost of, and we've had that frozen before, when the
Because
city
when
gets
we
in
get it,
trouble.
then insurance goes up, so you
Exactly,
really don't see the raise.
exactly. Would you like a copy, Alderman?
Sure.
Okay, every alderman should have a copy of that.
It'd be nice if we had an electronic copy. You
Well,
can do a lot of data research with that.
we're actually gonna have, I got paper copies because we're gonna pass it out to the committee members, okay? But, they may have that, and I'll ask about that. But, because I wanna be able to turn the page and look, what did you make last year? What did you make the year before? And actually, I'm gonna ask for an analysis for the last 3 years and see if they can do it that way. I don't remember them ever doing that when I was here, but that doesn't mean it can't be done, okay? And we may do it by each, department as we go through, because we're gonna bring the departments in and talk to them. We're gonna bring civil service. One of the things we talked about, is that all the people are welcome. I don't like that idea that, if you come and you wanna ask questions, that you can't do that. I never heard of that till I came back here. Okay, we were always welcome to ask questions. When I came back, Phyllis didn't want me to ask
Oh.
questions of the police, and that Dotson and I got into it, because I said, you and Phyllis will be gone and I'll still be here. And that's just exactly what happened, okay? And you'll be sorry that you didn't let me ask questions. Then he came back and tried to talk to me when the crowd was gone. I was like, oh, no, I don't ask no private questions. This is a public body, and therefore, the people that I represent have a right for my questions to be in the public.
Is that by departments or just by?
It is by department. Start at the front is
I'm
us.
saying, position, I should say, position.
It's by departments, and then it breaks down by positions. And one of the things I'm asking personnel is to give us the key, because a lot of times when we vote on things about changing, like we voted a few years ago about, we don't have a police chief anymore. We have
Commissioner.
police commissioner, but we have a assistant police chief.
Yeah. That's new.
How does Atul become a assistant police chief? We don't even have a police chief anymore. And the other question I wanna know about is, and these are my questions, where did Dotson get paid from? How did we pay a current police, acting police commissioner or, police chief, and still have the old one on board? These are the kind of
Correct.
things that have no business happening, and it happens because we are the legislative body, and we don't do our checks and balances, because people try to attempt to make us smaller instead of making us the checks and balances, okay? They think that we're supposed to be down here to be with the mayor, or the president of board of aldermen, or whoever, and actually, we're supposed to be the checks and balances on everything.
That's right, for our constituents.
That's correct. Got anything else?
I don't, particularly, I'm just, thrilled to work with you. Anything I can do to
Why
give you a
look,
helping hand to,
I appreciate it.
to get this going, just let me know.
And I wanna work with you, cause it's Ways and Means, and I think public employees and Ways and Means can work together.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah,
especially
it
you're
is.
gonna be bringing people in.
Right.
So I will be
Twine.
coming to, right,
Yeah.
be cohesive and work together.
We'll be setting up a schedule soon, so I'll be working with Michelle. And
Okay.
I think, are the books ready? Do you know?
I think they're on our
They
desk.
are. They should be on your
They're on my
desk
desk when I came in.
It's time to roll. We got
Okay.
the books, yeah.
Anybody that's not excused is unexcused. That's the way I'm always gonna do it.
It will be described there.
Okay, so we got 3 excused and 2 unexcused. And that could be my best friend. If you don't have, the courtesy to call in and tell me you're not gonna be here, then goodbye. Okay.
We'll be able to be introduced, Board Bill 1, I'm saying.
Yes, sir, yes.
This Friday.
It's going in this Friday.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
we're off and rolling. We'll have another bill, the comptroller will be doing.
So, we're gonna call this a formal meeting, to an end, and then you can go on and do it, and we'll just have discussions. I will provide you with a copy
I
of.
was just gonna ask, may I get a
Right.
copy
Oh,
for the
yes.
record?
Everything that I do, you always will get a copy. I am a very much, everybody should have a right and say and know what's going on person. There are no secrets, and if it is, that's the problem in this board, when there's secrets and closed door things. So I'm very open to whatever.
All right, I was gonna put it in a binder. Do you want me to give a copy for you in a binder? too?
I was gonna have my secretary do it, but I didn't bind it yet, cause she has to make the copies for
Yeah,
everybody.
all right. I was
Okay.
just gonna say I'd make a copy
Right.
and put it in a binder
Yeah,
for you. if you-
okay, yeah, but Tracy is gonna do that, and then I'll have her give everybody on the committee, Alderman Boyd and you, a copy.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We're adjourned?
Yes, we are.